Have you ever played in a tournament with no buy-in, but 1k prize pool and less than 500 entries still? No? So here's your chance. The Academy of Poker is running a private tournament only for our beloved players. We do care about your comfort, so we have decided to limit the number of entries and make a player-friendly pay structure. It means no one will leave the game without a prize. Everyone will get a share of the prize pool and the winner will get at least $150. Not bad for a tournament with no buy-in, right? To get entry to the tournament, use the link in the description.
Today, we'll be looking at the last final table of the Sunday Million from the 28th of July. And before we start with analyzing some of the hands, let me show you quickly the opponents that are on the final table here. So I've looked up most of the opponents. I could find at least 7 of the 9 players involved. The 2 players I couldn't find were Ollie444 and Wizzo, but I think at least Wizzo doesn't need any introducing. That is Oli Shimion, who's a high stakes regular in online and live fields, and he made here yet another deep run, so we all know he's a pretty good player. And I know at least Oli444 from some of my sessions I played, and I think he's also a pretty good player. But let's have a look at the other opponents to see if there's any high stakes reg in there or either some more fun players or not regular players. And as you can see, at least Il Depredator from Uruguay, he's playing pretty high stakes, $50 per tournament, has a pretty good play ability and has massive profits. So he's definitely a player to look out for. And then we can see like the other players don't have that many tournaments on them. Goats 213 from Finland probably just reset it. So as we see, he also has a lot of profits and he's a really good player. And also DJ Sun Rasma is not playing that big tournaments, but of course because of the profits he made in the Sunday Million, he's like up by a pretty fair margin now. Uh, I think he was not that he might not he was more like a recreational player, but we'll see. And as it goes for the others, as we see the guy from Belgium, Money Mac, not a lot of tournaments and pretty sick that he already had a deep run in the Sunday Million with only that few tournaments. And the others, at least Esper is definitely a rec player, but according to his ability, he's probably not one of the best ones. But yeah, that's just for a little overview of the players, and now we'll be heading into the tournament. But of course, I want to show you the payouts. So, as I said, we're 9 people. There was a 1.13 million prize pool with over 11,000 entries if you count the re-entries. And as we see, the winner will get away with $115,000, and ninth place will still get almost $9,000 for a $109 tournament. That is pretty nice payouts. However, of course, you will be pretty disappointed when you get ninth, when the first place is almost 14 times as much. But yeah, as said, let's jump right in. And because it was a pretty long final table that lasted more than 2 hours in total, I'll be skipping to some hands to show you the most interesting ones here. And yeah, tell you my thoughts about it, and probably will do some analysis of of these hands as well if there are some more crucial spots. And as said, yeah, so we'll be jumping to some of the interesting hands. And as we see here, it's Ole Shimeon on the button. It will probably get folded to him, and he's going to be opening as we. If you're a viewer of a lot of EPTs or a regular in online poker and live poker, you should all know Ole Shimeon. He's a really good German poker player, won a lot of tournaments, made millions of dollars, and is well known for his really aggressive playing style. So let's see what he does. In this case, it's a pretty standard opening from ace 4. And actually with this, yeah, Depredator with his 13 big blind stack is probably going for the stop and go in this case. And here, as we see, he flops top pair, so he's probably going to check shove this. And as I said, I mean, in this case, Wizzo flopped the open-ender, so he's definitely going to continue. But we know him as an aggressor, so he's probably going to see bet a lot here anyways. And yeah, this is probably the spot where Depredator exactly will go for the check shove. Let's see if Wizzo makes the call. He does with the open-ender. Bings it on the turn, and we already lose Depredator in ninth place for roughly $9,000. And let's continue here now. After losing our first player at the final table, I said this will be a long final table, so this was already after like 3 minutes, and this final table will last over 2 hours. Now let's see. Here Ollie, of course, he has a big stack. He is chip leading right now, so he's gonna open quite a bit. And I chose this hand because I really like the upcoming 3-bet here now from Alexa, because he's in the middle. Yeah, he's having a mid stack, so you see he's in fourth place right now here with his stack, and he knows that Ollie can make a lot of action here, so he decides to take a. It's still a nice playable hand, queen nine suited, of course, and it's blocking some queens and king queen and ace queen and so on. So yeah, I really like this 3-bet attempt here because it's gonna get Ollie to fold his sixes. Just because he probably, if he gets 3-bet there from there, he can expect some really nice hands here from Alexa or Lewexa. And yeah, so and we're already going to the next hand where you see with the Wizzo, as I said, he's pretty aggressive. So on an 8-handed final table, he decides to open a6 suited here, and normally the big blind should probably defend here. So let's see if he goes for exactly that. He is second last in chips, so he might not want to risk anything. But yeah, he makes the call, and I think it's definitely an pretty easy call here. And now on this flop, it's going to be a check shove. I'm pretty sure, just because he's, as said, Wizzo will have a pretty wide range, even though it was from UTG here. But still, he can expect them to get a lot of folds from weaker hands. Like the only thing that would crash would be aces and ace king. Of course, he's blocking ace king in a certain extent, so I like the check shove here. Even if he had a flush draw, I would really like that, just because Wizzo can't call that wide as well. If he loses that pot, it will be a pretty big chunk of his stack. And yeah, therefore nicely played by both of them, I think. And let's head to the next hand. Here as well. Again, I like the opening here now that comes from our player in second to act. Of course, it's a pretty standard open, but again, it's on the final table, and you will probably try to play rather passive than too aggressive. And we see even that the sevens just get a snap fold there, just because of his position right now. He is fifth place out of the 8 remaining, and there's just no need for him to risk anything, and the range from there should be fairly tight, so he can expect to not see fours, fives, or sixes a lot of times, and that would be the only hands that he has crushed, and everything else would be at least a flip, if not 5-1. And yeah, we still, however, see the defend from the big blind here, which I like. He's deep enough to do that. And yeah, for example, this kind of flop favors his range just so much. And therefore I do think he could even donk here. That would be one of the few cases where he could even donk sometimes. But at least because of his hand, he has a gut shot already, and some backdoors with like yeah, back 8-9 for example or so. So he can definitely just call here, or he could even check raise just because this board should favor his range so much. And same goes now on the turn. Like here, he could even go for a lead now on the turn. I would I would like that quite a lot. But again, also check raise would be a nice thing. And in this case, as we see, he goes for the lead. Check raising would probably not be that good because on that turn, the preflop aggressor will probably not show that much action then because it shouldn't improve his range a lot. So therefore, I really, really like. Also, we improved in our equity here with the 6-5. So I do like the lead, and we will only get action from overpairs now. And this is, of course, it's part of his range, but it's not that big part of his range. So this bet can probably expect some folds. And as you see, he bets half pot, so the opponent needs to fold like, or only needs to call, needs to fold like only 25% of the time to make this bet work. And we see it worked in this case. So nicely done by Goetze. And yeah, we'll just see the next hand here. As he's the shortest stack, is only down. He's already down to 5 big blinds. It's a pretty easy shove here. He doesn't have that much ICM because the other players are just the next place has almost 3 times as many chips. So good shove here. And yeah, we just continue directly with the next hand, which I really like. And for that one, we can just quickly, or I will show you the Icemizer after that hand. So we probably know what will happen. Shimeon should 3-bet here. Normally it would be like 3 times the sizing, but because of the stacks are not that big anymore, I really like his downsizing here to just 2x. Especially because the UTG player has only 7 big blinds left. So I'm a bit surprised that he's actually only open raising here, but let's see if he should even fold here because that's exactly what he does. And yeah, let's have a look at the Icemizer. So I just put all the numbers in and let's have a look. That should be is here his opening range according to Nash Equilibrium with 11%. I do expect him to just open shove actually those hands and probably also not shoving these hands. So maybe like opening, probably also queens. If he opens ace jack offsuit, he will probably. I do think it's the bottom of his range, but yeah, something like that. Maybe then even king queen off. But yeah, we see. And the 3-betting range here from cutoff will I'm pretty sure also not be that wide. Probably something like this, I'd say. So now we put ourselves as the hero here. As we see, we open, get 3-bet here, and see. So actually, Ace Jack O is even because of the situation where 8 players left. But yeah, it's a 40. I would actually just go for the open shove. We can have a look at that as well. For example, let's say we sit here with the jacks. And yeah, he should be pushing roughly 10%. SSC Ace Jack would be in there. So it's almost the same as his normal opening raising range that is still here, but because of that, he's down to 7 and a bit big blinds. He shouldn't really open raise a lot. It would be just open pushing, but yeah. However, he decided to go for that. But then at the end, at least the fold, because that's exactly what he did. The fold was actually good. Of course, he did at least some tanking. Um, but yeah, maybe he's also because it was a bit that he's a bit money scared. He isn't playing that many tournaments, and it was a big money for him. But yeah, at the end he made the right fold anyways. But I think he should have just open shoved it. However, even though he ran into jacks then, but he could have at least hit the ace there. So, but now let's move on with the next hand. And yeah, so we're still eight-handed, of course. I will show you all the bust outs. And we here see goats with the open race. And again, the button here, our guy from Belgium has a tough decision. He's down to 3.5 big blinds. He has no fold equity, and he decides to fold the fours in this case. So let's have a look at IC Miser again, if that fold is correct or not. So again, I put in the numbers and let's have a look. So we see the open race from M from middle position 1. As you see, his opening range, I think that's pretty fair to say. Maybe he would not go for opening these hands like a bit tighter, but I think the rest of this is just fine. And then we're here as hero on the button, and let's see. So we see that force should be shoved here. As you see, it's down to 3.5 big blinds. Of course, there's no fold equity, but because of the range, we have a small advantage to that range, and therefore the force would be a call. However, it's a pretty close one, so it's probably also okay to fold here, but I think in the end that because he's just so short and the second last place is at least 4 times the amount of chips here. So yeah, I think he should have pushed it here. And I mean, of course, he will get a flip like almost all the time. But then again, if he's waiting for more spots, he's just going to get shorter and shorter, having less and less fold equity. And this could have been at least a pretty nice spot. But anyway, he decided to fold. So let's move on. And this hand will be a pretty nice example of what I was talking about for Wizzo Wizzo, that he's a pretty aggressive player that knows how to use some spots. And yeah, as I'm talking about it, of course, we then see him defend his big blind. And again, it's like the structure of that board is in Wizzo Wizzo's favor, so that's why I really like his check raise here that he's going for. As we're waiting. Yeah, as you see. So I really like his check raise. He has a lot of backdoor outs with running hearts or like a backdoor flush draw, backdoor straight draw, and still his jack horse 7 can be good a lot of times. So I really like the check raise attempt here. As well, I'm pretty sure that he's the least of all the players when it comes to being money scared in some way. He's used to playing even higher stacks all the time, so I do think he will go for some thinner spots, the easiest. And yeah, however, he also knows when to step off from the gas, and the deuce of clubs doesn't really it doesn't improve his equity in any way. So he decides to step from the gas as well because the opponent bet calls on the flop. He's probably gonna have some good hands, maybe some overpairs or so. So Wizzo Wizzo knows that he will not get the opponent to fold on the turn just because if he calls the flop, the turn will change nothing for him. So yeah, we see that he can be aggressive, but he also knows when to step from the gas. And as we see, he then just goes for the check fold on the river. And yeah, I like the play from both sides. Also that Luxa wasn't folding hit on the flop. Of course, also he had the second pair and some backdoor outs. So nicely done. And yeah, let's move on to the next hand. And yeah, we finally see here Money Mac going all in with his last three big blinds, and he finds the kings here. So really nice spot for him to double up. But again, as I said, for like doubling up here will put him back to roughly, yes, we see if somebody calls, will be like 4.5, maybe roughly 5 million, and he will still be last. So as I said, there's not much fold equity there anyway. And yeah, the ace jack in the small blind decides to ISO here, and unlucky for Money Mac, but yeah, as I said, probably the earlier spot would have been better. But however, he leaves in 8th place for more than $12,000. So GG to that. And yeah, we just gonna jump into the next hand. So now the shortest stack is Esbjerg in the small blind. And as we've seen earlier from Goetze, he is opening a bit wider. Of course he can. He's the chip leader currently, almost even with Ollie 444, but still. And now I'm actually pretty surprised here that Esbjerg just decides to flatten the small blind. I don't know if he was trying to induce some squeeze from the big blind, but yeah, I don't really like this. As we know that Goetze had a bit could open a bit wider. He maybe wanted to trap Goetze as well here, but again, I don't think he should trap hands like this at this stage of the tournament. Because tens, of course, is a nice hand, but there's so many boards that will crush his dreams here. And yes, we now see pretty disgusting flop actually. So let's see how this plays out. Esbjerg will of course think that Goetze will not have a lot in his range. He could think maybe of 10-9 suited, which he's blocking, or maybe like ace-9 suited, but that would probably be it for his range. So I don't really nice bet by the way here. And yeah, we will see the check raise all in, and bad news here. Overpair versus the trips. The trips hold up, and we lose Esbjerg in 7th place for $16,786. GG, well done. And yeah, now we already have the next hands. The next hand being down to 7 players, and there's an easy shove from DJ San Rusma on the button. And yeah, before we see the results, let's have a quick look on what they should call or what they should fold here from those positions. And for that, we of course use the ICMizer again. So I already created the Nash equilibrium. And first, so button goes all in. We see with 32% of his range. I do believe he was fairly tight that he will not shove these hands here. But for the rest, okay, let's go for this. Yeah, I think that is actually okay. So he's pushing 28%, and now we have a look at what Ole can call here. Let's see again. He has ace 7 here, so just for showing purposes, let's have a look here, and we see it's a pretty clear fold here. We have the big blind behind us, and with only 20 big blinds, we don't need to risk anything, even though it's pretty interesting that already sixes are a call here actually, and also ace-9 suited. If you see it, he's in the 4th place right now with his 20 bigs and pretty close to the other one. So if he loses, he will be down to 9 big blinds here, and yeah, will be pretty short from that on. However, he should call ace-9 suited and ace-10 offsuit. But yeah, A7 is a fold here, and then we're in the big blind with Jack 10 suited, and we see Jack 10 suited is actually even a closer fold than A6-0 is from the small blind, but as you see here, A6 offsuit, or A7 offsuit was it, would even be a plus minus zero call, so the call would be okay. However, Jack 10 suited is a fold here, so let's see how this played out at the end, if any one of those made a mistake by calling here. Of course, there's at least some tanking involved here, but we see the fold from Ole, and Goetze also goes for the fold here. And yeah, we already have the next interesting hand directly after that. In this case, Wizzo will not be in the hand, even though we could expect him to open that from time to time. But yeah, it's also pretty interesting now because it's the two big stacks. Goetze has quite some advantage, or 10 million more, so like 13 big blinds, 14 big blinds, even more than Ollie here. And yeah, he decides to raise, which is pretty fine. Of course, you can put some pressure on Ollie, and yeah, therefore I do like the raise. I would probably size it up a bit more, just because this was only 2.5x roughly, a bit more. I would size it up a bit more to 3, maybe 3.2 or so, even though we're not that deep stacked anymore. But this still gives him pretty good odds to call. And yeah, Ollie just decides to flat here. There's no reason to 3-bet here, because if he then gets the 4-bet, he needs to fold. And in this case, he can at least see some flop and yeah, keep the pot small. Yeah, I like the Conti bet is, I think, okay, just because he was the aggressive pre-flop. But yeah, now on the turn, he should give it up. And yeah, same goes for Ollie here. Just calling the flop is definitely nice. I do think he could sometimes bet the turn here small, but he decides to go for pot control and therefore checks it behind. Now the river isn't the best card for Ollie, but probably if Goats had a flush draw, he would continue on the turn as well. So he can be pretty sure that he's good, and he can even think about some small value bet now here. Actually, just because of the 6 on the river, Goats he might be calling here, and yeah, nice sizing from Ollie with like roughly 35-36%. And let's see if Goetze will talk himself into calling. There can be some cards that Ollie has. He could just have flatted with ace high here, that, or like ace 5, ace 3 or something like that, where the 6 is now good. Queen 10, 10 8, maybe some draws. For example, in hearts, spades would have, of course, bet here. Uh, but yeah, he decides to call here. So nice pot for Ollie in this case. And yeah, we have some rather nice hands. So we just stay here for now. And yeah, let's see what happens here. So standard opening, he's now second in chips only, but still, and probably Ollie will 3-bet here again. Nice hand, and also after this one where he now took the chip lead, pretty nice to do that again. I like the sizing. 4x is pretty nice. Those two are the only two players that are a bit more deep stacked. So I think it's okay. He could size it down a little bit to maybe 3.2, 3.4x, something like that. But yeah, I think this is okay, and we get the fold. And now on to the next hand. As you see, as I said, the final table will be going for more than 2 hours, and we're just 40 minutes into the final table now. As you see, there was a lot of playing in the later stages still. Here again, a nice example of Wizzo Wizzo being aggressive. Uh, I wouldn't have mind just an open shove from the small blind here, to be honest, with 15, roughly 15 big blinds. And yeah, Wizzo Wizzo just uses it, his passive play, to push him out of the play by just shoving from the big blind. Nicely done here. And yeah, that shows that Ole knows what he's doing almost always. And yeah, just the next example here, as we said, like here, Jack 10, a worse hand than just one hand before, but he decides to shove it in. He knows that Goatse can call that much, and as you see, he even folded an ace. So nice play here. And yeah, let us just continue with the next hand here, where Ole is opening standard a6, and he will get some action from the big blind. Who will probably just rip it in here. And Ole will not give him any action, so let's just see. Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. But yeah, let's now go to the next hand, which is an important one, as DJ San Ruzma shoves his remaining 16, 17 roughly big blinds all in, and he gets called by Goatse. And let us, before we see the runout, have a look at the IC Miser again, if that is a call or not. So I put again the numbers in, and we see the open shoving range from UTG, which probably, I don't think you would open shove it that wide. Probably like this. This is just fine. So that would be the opening range. And let's see the range from the cutoff. As we see, let me put it in here. So sevens, uh, as we see, is not a good overcall here. We can actually, let me do it like this, for example. So we see the overcalling range here. Yeah, that's actually fine. So he should overcall from fives here. I'm not sure if he would start. Probably sevens are the bottom of his range, as well as this here. So yeah, we see 7.8%. So sevens is actually fine. But yeah, as we can see here, for the reshoving is actually not a good play here. He's gonna lose 0.45% of ICMEV here. So he should be folding sevens here, just because there are three players behind him. And yeah, however, he decides to make the call, and let's see how it turns out. Excuse me. So here, yeah, make it a bit quicker. However, the sevens hold up, so we lose another player in sixth place now for $23,000. Again, not a good call, but in this case, the result was the right one, so he will be okay with it. And yeah, we jump a little bit into the next hand. So we've been playing 500 for a few minutes. And again, as said, some pretty nice hands were developing here versus those two players. Here in this case, Goatse decides to limp the 8-9 offsuit, and then the flop is not the worst for him. He flops a gut shot, and he decides to go for a little continuation bet, which will probably not get Ole to fold because he flopped a pair here as well, which is not the worst in heads-up situations. So yeah, let's see if Goetze continues his aggression here. The 3 doesn't change a lot for him, but also not a lot for Ollie. So maybe a second bet could get Ollie to fold here, because Ollie of course can call a lot with just ace highs, with a 6, with a 5. So I do think barreling is pretty nice here. And now Ollie's decision is getting harder and harder. He still has third pair, however, Gotze can of course just limp in any queen there. A lot of 6x. And therefore he decides to fold. So again, nicely done. Gotze's aggression shows. And yeah, we just have directly the next hand. Again, a pretty interesting one. So we see Ole doing his standard opening here, of course. Ace-9, strong enough hand to open here. And yeah, let's see if Ole decides to conti bet here. It's not the best board for him, but also because of the king high, probably also not the best board for the big blind. The big blind now decides to defend here. I think it's okay. He had to call 1.2 million for 6.4, so pretty nice odds with his backdoor draws. He had at least a backdoor flush draw and backdoor straight draws. So I think it's okay to just float one time. And because of the board structure, he could try to then go for it on the river as a bluff. Now, of course, he picked up quite some equity here, so I think he can still call once. He gets 4 to 1, 25%. So actually, if we think about it, doing some simple math, he needs to call roughly 3 million to win 12. So as I said, he has 4 to 1. However, his Jack 10, his opener right now only has 8 outs, so meaning 16% of equity roughly. And 16 is less than 25, so he should not be calling here. And of course he can't know that, but actually Oli is blocking both of his outs. So he only has 6 outs right now, which makes it even worse. But yeah, let's see if he decides to still call here. Again, math-wise, it should be a fold. But he decides to make the call and now hits his miracle river. It's going to be really, really hard for Wizzo to fold here. He just has 7 million in the 12 million pot left and just hits his top pair. He can't expect the opponent to have exactly the hand he has, because he would have, like, it's hard for him to call the flop and the turn with only Jack 10. So he could have, of course, some 2-pair combos, maybe like ace 6 or so, but then again, he's blocking it with his ace himself. And yeah, it's really hard for Ole to get the fold here. Also, he can, Luxa could be putting some things into a bluff here, maybe representing an ace on his own, and as I said, because Ole has it, and he was betting twice, so he could think that Ole has a king here, so the river would be a pretty nice hand, pretty nice card to bluff here, and therefore I think it's probably not possible for Ole. And yeah, he makes the call and sees the bad news running into the rivered nuts. And yeah, we lose Wizzo Wizzo in 5th place for nearly $32,000 now. GG, and yeah, let's move on. And yeah, I said it's a long, long final table, so we're now only halfway done, and but we're down to 4 players, so as you see, there will be still a lot of play going down four-handed here. So yeah, we now picked this pretty nice hand here to show you. It looks like that Luxa had some time bank troubles here, but yeah, let's see here on the flop. Goatse flops bottom set really nice versus the second pair of Luxa, and because he's on the button, his range is really wide. So therefore, yeah, first thing he should continue, and Luxa will should always call here at least once on the flop, just because he is his second pair could be best a lot of times, and the turn is a really disgusting card for him actually, because now it makes it even more unlikely that Goatse has a queen, and yeah, that improves the equity of his second pair by quite a lot. So let's see. Goatse, however, should still, of course, just bet here. He probably is hoping that Luxa has a queen here and wants to go a bit bigger as well. And yeah, then let's see. Yeah, as said, so he goes for more than 2/3 of the pot. And now it's a really tough decision for Luxa. I wouldn't blame him for calling here, just because he can be good so many times. Goatse could have a worse 10, can have a lot of draws still, like King Jack, for example, Jack 9 or so. But yeah, here we see the time bank trouble from Luxa is probably saved him a lot of money now, or a lot of chips at least, uh, because he folded as his time ran out. And I think he will be really happy to see if he looks at the review what what this sitting out saved him. But yeah, let's go to another hand, and we see here Ollie limping the pair of fives here, and yeah, Goatse will definitely go for a raise, and that will probably, even though we're only four-handed, just because Ollie is second in place and he doesn't need to risk that many chips, will probably get both players to fold here. Exactly. And yeah, we just move to the next hand, where we see Goatse opening his sixes, and just a flat call from US Artist. And he now goes for the donk shove for 2.5 times the size of the pot. Really weird play. Pre-flop, I would have just three-bet shoved it here. He would probably get a call anyways. Now Goatse even goes for the call with his pocket pair. And yeah, in a weird fashion, we see the double up here. It worked out. Again, pretty weird play, but it worked out for him. And yeah, we jump a little bit. There's been quite some back and forth, and we see that there's been quite a big shift here in the chips. And now, as US Artist is so short, he needs to call here. And let's see if the sevens can hone up quite a lot of outs. But Luxa busts US Artist in fourth place for $44,000. GG on that. And yeah, we're down to 3 players now. And from that time on, there was some negotiations for a deal, so I'm just gonna skip on that real quickly. And yeah, all 3 players decided to make a deal, which guaranteed them quite a lot of money. And I'll show you the payouts at the very rest, because there was still 20K to play for. And yeah, we're down to 3 players. As we see, Goatse was in the lead now, but with 1 and 2 million, pretty short stack for everyone. And we'll be seeing a raise call. I'm pretty sure here 300 for 11 big blinds. I don't think that Ollie can fold his ace jack here, which will be good, as we see, because small blind is here with queen jack. Wow, hard flop, but Ollie rivers his flush to bust Luxi in third place. GG from Goatse. And now we're already down to heads up play, almost even in stacks. So let's see what happens here at the end. And yeah, there's been now one interesting hand throughout the heads up that I can't really like to talk about here. So we see Ollie opening with King 10 suited. He was limping. Sorry, he was limping from the button with Goatse just checking. It gets check on the turn on the flop, and the turn is a really interesting card now here. So Goatse has top pair plus the flush draw, and Ollie just hit his gut shot to have the nut straight. I wouldn't mind Ollie here just just calling on the turn. Of course, there's some draws out there, but still, I do think that because he's also in position that on a lot of rivers he can then get another bet from Goatse. But also a raise is pretty nice here because if Goatse has some hand here, probably he will not fold and show enough action to then have a hard decision for him on the river. And yeah, Ollie here decides to go for a small raise, so I do like that. And he goes for the call, and now the river breaks. And yeah, I would go fairly big here if I were Ollie, like 2/3, maybe 3/4 of the pot, so 14, 50 million even maybe. Because then I don't think that Goatse will call with maybe even his jacks or queens sometimes. Now the overbet shove, I'm not sure. Of course, it's really polarizing, but what is Goatse now? He's only beating a bluff now. So, of course, and he even makes the fold here, pretty nice fold though, just because he has like that's like the best hand he can be or the best hand he could be having there. So I do like the fold. However, I'm not sure about the overbet shove here. I think I would have gone like yeah 2/3 as I said. But however, that's how Ollie decided, and it gives him the pot. And now, as we see, there's a more than 2-to-1 chip advantage for Ollie, and this could be the defining hand now. It'll probably go 3-bet all in, and definitely also the call. So let's see how it runs out. There's the ace on the turn, and we have a winner of the Sunday Million. Let me quickly show you the payouts here. So Ollie 444, our guy from the Czech Republic, wins after the deal. As we see, during the deal, he had 77,000 guaranteed, so Luxa was even handed the most money. But in the end, he won the 20k extra, winning this week's Sunday Million for almost $100,000. GG and congrats to the Czech Republic. Uh, this was my hand analysis of the final table from this week's Sunday Million. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you have any comments or questions below, just put them down and I'll be happy to answer them. Also, don't forget to follow us on our social media platforms and also subscribe to our YouTube channel to not miss out on any of our videos. There will be more hand reviews or final table reviews, but as well also some theoretical and strategical poker stuff. So I'm looking forward to see you or hear or listen from you in one of the future videos. So yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you next time. Bye.